From here, Shield Watkins Field at Neyland Stadium, Steve, no other way to say it, a catastrophic day for the Bulldogs. A 2010 defeat to a Tennessee team that Mississippi State came in expecting to win. To be honest, most of the Tennessee crowd expected to win. Instead, the Bulldogs fouled behind early and just never do get their offensive game going despite a pretty good effort by the defensive team. Just all around a disaster for this season.
Yeah, I mean, David, this was the one game you looked at the schedule, and especially after losing the Kansas State games. You know what? There is no margin for error right now, and there's still a very good mathematical possibility. But at this point, how can you look at the season and say, you know what, outside of Abilene Christian, we should win every one of those ball games? And the reality of that situation is Mississippi State has some real soul-searching to do right now. This was a ball game that they should have won, certainly could have won, but they didn't win.
Well, the reason we take this loss so seriously, yes, they all count the same, but it's the manner of the loss, and it was the matchup of the loss. Mississippi State came in expecting to run the ball well against the Tennessee defense that, has some strength up there, but is very vulnerable and exploitable in certain areas. State starts Tommy Stevens. All right, that's going to be the story of the game essentially besides the loss. Coach Joe Moore had said that both quarterbacks were a little nicked up, but A, that Stevens was healthier as the week went on, and B, he simply practiced better, probably a relationship to that. That said, he left him in an entire half, 2 interceptions, I believe 1 field goal resulting, and just a day that he just was not getting anything done offensively.
It's true, David. And the first question in the press conference, the one that I asked, is Garrett Schrader making his case to be the starting quarterback? I think we all know that. I know our fans on social media and on the message boards, they all believe that. I don't think there's any question now. Garrett Schrader is the quarterback for this team. And, again, he comes in with a deficit and gives Mississippi State a chance to win. The reality is late in the ball game, and defense kind of wore down for three and a half quarters. They played pretty well, but Tennessee did what they needed to do. They put together a 9-play, 91-yard drive to put the game away, and ultimately that's a difference.
Well, obviously, State has a chance the first half to really kind of set a tone there. They get the ball first. They lose a yard in their first play. All right, running game, and they start saying, okay, Tennessee's going to focus on this and make you either run the read option or throw the ball. It just wasn't there with Stevens. We're going back to that subject, but also Kylan Hill. He did not break any tackles, finished up with 13 yards on 11 carries, certainly not his type of game. The ground game never got established, but in that system, Tennessee got more and more confident because there was the passing game with 2 interceptions was not there either in the first half.
And it's true, David. And listen, let's be honest here. First of all, Tommy Stevens and Garrett Schrader are both Mississippi State Bulldogs. We can like them both. We can support them both. But it's time we play one of them. The reality in this ball game today is I really felt like, and we discussed it on the sidelines, Schrader probably should have come in after the second series because it was pretty clear that Stevens simply didn't have it, whether it be that he's got a lingering injury or maybe he's not seeing the field well. There was a couple times there he had open receivers and just simply didn't make the throw. But the reality of this situation is that Garrett Schrader has emerged as the best option at quarterback for Mississippi State.
Now, I was in the press box, of course. From my level, there are a couple of plays, actually positive plays for Stevens in the run game, produced first downs, but there were plays that might have been touchdowns or certainly longer gainers with a different quarterback, and I don't know what it looked like from the field level at your standpoint there. Let's talk a little defense the first half. Tennessee started a freshman quarterback as well, and he created 2 very bad mistakes in the end zone. I will give my wife Kathy credit. She had probably the text of the day to me when she said State's defense caught more balls in the end zone than State's offense did. So 2 good interceptions, but it also showed that Tennessee was vulnerable today for State to give a knockout blow in the first half and couldn't deliver. What was Tennessee doing defensively to shut down the run game?
Well, Coach Moorhead said that they changed the protections up on third down and they ran a little more twist and that sort of stuff. But back to the interceptions, David. It was a chance for State to make a statement early, and we had talked about it on Thursday. Tennessee wanted to start early. They scripted out well against Georgia. They went right down the field. They scored. They hit a couple big plays. Well, it seemed like that was about to happen to Mississippi State, but Cameron Dantzler makes a great play. You could really sense in the stadium that it was a different air in the building. When that happened, it's kind of like, oh, there's a freshman mistake from our freshman quarterback. But to Mars' credit, he came back and battled really hard. The one he threw, I really thought the worst interception was the one that he threw, and that's after he got a little bit banged up on that play. And he's a lot like Garrett Schrader, and that's one of the things I think about, man, is the youth of quarterbacks in this league. It's very exciting to think about. That's the future. The immediate situation for Mississippi State is they've got to find a way to win 3 games and get back to a bowl game. And I think at this point we can all accept that Garrett Schrader gives Mississippi State the best and probably its only chance to do that.
Of course, State did use the players on defense we expected to. Lee Autry and Willie Gay both played. And for 3.5 quarters, defense did a pretty solid job, obviously trailing just 10-3, then 13-3 in the field goals. 3 times backed up, and they forced them to make plays or to settle for kicks. They just wore down, as you said, and we talked to Errol Thompson and Brian Cole about it. They just Tennessee stretch, and they'll come back. They ran the same play basically the whole fourth quarter, but then broke the reception for a touchdown. That was just a tired defense that just did not have the support on the offensive side. So you had the feeling the whole game that if State just gets anything at all going offensively in the first 3 quarters, they had this game to win.
And there are a lot of people right now, David, a lot of our fans are saying, you know what, if Schrader had started the game, we probably win. And you know what? They're probably right. I think Garrett Schrader simply has a different quality about him, and that's not to be negative about Tommy Stevens, but I think Garrett Schrader, and we saw late in the ball game, there was nobody playing harder than him. And that's not to say that some other Bulldogs are mailing it in, but the bottom line is the kid didn't give up. And I think at this point you ride with him, you figure it out. Not only does he give you your best chance to win, but I think it gives you a springboard into next year because Mississippi State simply has to be better at the quarterback position. And I think, and let's just say it, call it like it is, David. Perhaps there was a sense of loyalty that Joe Moorhead felt to Tommy Stevens when Tommy made the decision to come here and to be the guy for this offense. And maybe a healthy Tommy Stevens, maybe it's a different season, maybe it's a different team. But that's not the case anymore. We've got Garrett Schrader now who has sparked this offense, and every time it seems that he comes in there is a deficit of sorts. It's time to give the keys to the car, let him ride with it.
Now, I will also give a coach the margin of error in this sense that if he says a guy practiced better, okay, I'll believe that. If you practice better, you probably earn it. But at some point, a practice player who's not produced in the games to a guy who may not practice as well but makes plays in the games, it's a tough decision. But as you say, Steve, we may have to ride that. Another thing that got to me in this game, it just seemed there was a little lack of maybe – I don't want to say organization, but there was a kind of not a sure sense that they really knew what they wanted to do on both sides of the ball at times there. So State's best plays were almost individual creative plays, whether it was by the defensive backs or by some guys who chose to make blitzes at times, or, as we say, Garrett Schrader. A, that's good to see the individual effort, but B, do you worry a little bit about how this team is organized, particularly coming off an open date when they should have been completely ready for this game?
Yeah, well, to answer your question bluntly, David, yes. Yeah, that is concerning. And that's one of the things I like about Garrett Schrader is when things break down, the play is not dead. He will find a way to extend the play and move the chains. Just like on that 4th down play. Let's be honest. Tennessee had a great call there, but they missed the tackle. Next thing you know, he's running free there. And there were a couple times that, you almost think sometimes he tries to do a little bit too much. But the reality with Garrett Schrader is that's who he is. That's exactly who he is. He is a playmaker. He's got a little bit of Nick Fitzgerald in him, but he's a better passer at this point in his career. And so I think the fans, if next week, listen, let's be honest with ourselves, chances of State upsetting LSU probably pretty slim, right? But I think Garrett Schrader, if he's a starter next week and Joe Moorhead comes out Monday and says, hey, Garrett Schrader's our starting quarterback going forward, I think that may be the loudest cheers you've heard in the middle of the season.
And I think if they make any other decision, you really have to wonder about the decision-making from this operation, of course, if they don't go with Garrett Schrader starting quarterback. Let's send out a kudos. A good crowd of State fans turned out today. I know we talked earlier in the week that a large number of tickets have been sold, probably the largest for a road game in a while that wasn't involving the Egg Bowl. But a lot of tickets were bought on the secondary market. I know I bought one for my wife, Kathy, $70, a good seat. I don't feel she was cheated, but I certainly would like to help her see a win there. But State fans turned out for this. What do we say to them to turn out this coming weekend against LSU?
Well, I think the one thing you can sell is the fact that I think this is Garrett Schrader's team now, and he needs the support of this fan base. I mean, the reality with Garrett is that, that LSU defense is going to be a very good one. But that kid has shown that he can move the football on anybody. And so I'm not going to sit here and promise you that it's going to be a great game next week, but this young freshman group gives you some hope for the future, and they need their fans behind them.
So from Shields-Watkins Field at Neyland Stadium, bad day for the Bulldogs all around. A 20-10 loss to a Tennessee team that Mississippi State was very much favored to win. State is now 1-2 in SEC play, 3-3 overall at the halfway point of the season, and about to host one of the top teams in the country with LSU coming to campus next weekend. We expect to find out tonight what game time is, but word we had earlier was if the Tigers do take down Florida, regardless of what happened here today, it looks like it would be a 2:30 CBS game on Scott Field, which we've not had since 2015. But that will be confirmed later this evening while Steve and I are both on the road en route back to Starkville. So A bad day from a great place to watch SEC football, but a bad place to leave when you've lost. But I guess, Steve, you can mark another stadium off your list.
Well, it's one of the great cathedrals in college football. You know, it's one of those things, as a fan of college football, you love to kind of come here and take it all in. And I'd like to one day be able to say, David, I've seen Mississippi State win in every SEC stadium. Can't say that yet. And so I don't know when we get a chance to come back here. But, David, I think you're right. Tip of the cap to the Bulldog fans, it turned out, because the mood around this program here the last 10 days has not been very good. And so I think that speaks volumes about the Mississippi State fans. And they'll show up next week. I don't think it's going to be a capacity crowd, but there'll be a lot of LSU people there as well. But so my hope is Bulldog fans still stay behind this team, even though I know it's difficult. But happy to see our folks here today.
Bulldog fans will support a team that acts and looks like it knows what it's doing, plays hard, gives effort. So that's the challenge for the Bulldogs this week as they get ready for the LSU Tigers. For Steve Robertson, for our staff back in Starkville with Robbie and Paul and Mike taking care of some business there. I know baseball's going on as well. Gene will be covering that out at Duty Field. But right here in Knoxville, for Steve Robertson, this is David Murray.